Hey all, it's your girl Erin, and today we're going to be talking about USA politics again. And there's two things I want to talk about. The first is Trump's comments on the AOC and the squad, and the second is the ICE raids. So, um, in terms of the squad thing, I don't think I need to go into too much detail to tell you that the USA foreign policy is to blame for most of the reasons why the rest of the world is in poverty. That includes the US foreign policies to oppose every nation that attempts to do something um, that's coming towards state capitalism. I'm not even going to say socialism, even though that's what people call it. No state is trying to do socialism, but the USA won't even let states try to do things like state capitalism or even social democracy. And that forces the rest of the world basically to choose the only options left, which are neoliberalism or fascism. And that suits the US as a mix between neoliberal and fascism itself. So yes, now the squad are more social democrats in nature, and so it would make sense really that Trump would go after them because they're, for the first time in a long time, bringing a discussion to USA politics of another option besides fascism and neoliberalism. Uh, and so the neoliberalism is actually crypto fascism. It does all the same things as fascism, but it does it without being openly admitting of it. It tries to do it through the market or through austerity measures, etc. And when you keep people in neoliberalism for long enough, it will cause that society to go towards fascism. The longer you stay in neoliberalism, the closer you'll get to fascism. And so, what you really need is you need this kind of left activism, this kind of left representation that says, yeah, um, the way things are now, fascism is the future. It's the present, but it's going to be more and more the future. And there needs to be another option. And so that's essentially what AOC and the squad are doing, is they're fighting for social democratic policies which are going to um, catch the attention of the American people and like these birds are catching my attention, I guess. See, when there's a sound that you haven't heard for a while and you hear it, you pay attention, and that's why people are paying attention. That's why the squad has good social media followings, not because of any other reason than the fact that they have the right policies that people like. Most of the American people support social democratic policies, but most people on Earth support, when compared to neoliberalism or fascism, most people on Earth support social democratic policies. It's really only the fascists and the bourgeoisie who don't like them, because they are policies for worker empowerment, etc. So Trump told them to go back to their countries. Ilhan Omar comes from Somalia. She's a refugee. She was a US citizen from like age 17 or something. Moved there when she was 12. The rest of them were born in America. So um, it's very clear Trump knew this. And what he's trying to do is speak to his base. Like, he doesn't care that it's inaccurate. He doesn't care that they, are from America, but it's a dog whistle in a way. He's telling his constituents, he's telling his base that he's judging them not based on, where they were born or grew up or, lived basically all of their life, but he's judging them based on their parents' origin, basically. Like, if you go back into their ancestry, where were they? And the thing is, if you do that with white people, they gotta all get the freaking hell out of the USA. So if Trump is using that against people of color, but not using it against white people, in a sense, what he is trying to declare is that the USA belongs to white people and that every other nation is visiting. If your ancestry comes from any nation other than what's considered white, you're merely visiting and you don't come from the USA. Yet the white people who all immigrated to the USA, suddenly, they do belong there. If they were to have to go back, they would stay where they are, because they don't see white people as being others. So it's got nothing to do with where they actually came from. And even if none of them had came from the USA originally, that would still be Trump's point, not speaking about the people and where they personally come from, but speaking about, the origins and making it about race. And so it was xenophobic, it was very racist. And let's just talk a little bit about the points about people like, let's use Ilhan Omar, because the rest of them are from the USA, so I mean that's pure deception there to try and imply that they come from anywhere else. But let's say for her, let's talk about Somalia, right? Out of every country in the world, which one is the most influential in world politics, in geopolitics? It's the USA. Like, they have the biggest military, they have the biggest GDP, which means the most rich people. It's got nothing to do with how wealthy a country is. Really, it's only got to do with how much money is in that country's rich people's bank accounts and corporations. But the average person, it doesn't tell you anything about how rich they are when you look at GDP. But the USA is it's the top dog in the world. And so if you really did care about helping other countries and you did live in the USA, the fastest way for you to help those nations would be for you to change the USA, to fix the USA's foreign policy, and to get the USA to have a better foreign policy that is going to help other nations instead of oppressing them, instead of keeping them under an imperialist power relation where they are forced to be sources of cheap labor and forced not to adopt progressive policies that would help their workers and raise the nation out of poverty. They can't do that because of the USA's foreign policy. So I would say, if you really did want to fix any other country than the USA, and you lived in the USA, fixing the USA would be the fastest way to fix those countries. Because if you did go to those countries and try to fix them, the USA would just come in and force any change you made to be reverted. And if you try to fight for it, they would send their military or CIA or whatever. Like, look at South America, they've done it all the time. There's certain countries, like you look at like Honduras or Guatemala or whatever, and it's like, anytime anyone slightly socially democratic leaning gets into power, they back a right-wing coup there. Because, like I was saying, the USA only wants neoliberalism and fascism to be the only options for the world, because those two can tag team off each other and say, we're not like the neoliberals, we're really bigoted. And the neoliberals are like, we're not like the fascists, we are pretending not to be bigoted. And they make themselves out to be enemies while continuing the same policies and the same outcome, the same direction of wealth flowing to the top, increase in inequality, etc. So absolutely, definitely, there is no merit to the suggestion that people should go to other countries than the USA when they're in the USA to fix those countries. And if they did go to those countries, what they would probably need to be doing in those countries was getting everyone to protest against the USA that would be stopping those countries from making the progress they need. Because how do you even build a movement for change in other countries with the USA propaganda and all that? Like, it can happen, it has happened, and it's awesome when it does, but it's definitely doing it the hard way around when you're already in the USA, the root of the problem. Fix the root of the problem, not the symptoms. And also, people have no obligation to the place that they were born anyway. You're not obliged to fix the place you were born. Being born in a certain place isn't some magical spell that gets cast on you that makes you responsible for it. Now, I personally have not really wanted to. I did for a long time want to go, but at the moment I don't want to go. I don't want to leave my country because there's a lot of good in it, and I see a lot of potential for things to improve. And practically speaking, it's easier for me to fight for progress here than go to another country and then be sort of in the unknown, have to learn all the customs and be an outsider there. And so even though where you're born has no real meaningful say on you, what people do gatekeep the discussion based on it. And people will say, you're not in the USA, you can't talk about USA politics, even though USA politics are more influential on our lives than our own country's politics, because the USA keeps interfering and forcing them to take certain forms. So yeah, and so yeah, we should. So I don't want to leave, but if I did, I would want to help wherever I move to, because you want to help where you live, and especially if you like where you live. And that's another thing that's important to realize is, if you love something and it has flaws, you will criticize it and try to make it better. You won't leave it. And so if the squad love the USA, then they would stay there, criticize it, and try to fix it rather than leave. And so it's the people that really love a place that will want to fix it because they want to keep living there and they want to live in a better place. It's really simple, but right-wing gaslighting, they come across so arrogantly and so presumptuously that they almost force the human brain to assume that they're saying something sensible when they're not. Now, I also wanted to talk about the ICE raids. So I mentioned before that if you allow mass-scale raids to happen, it's going to further dehumanize immigrants in the minds of the ICE agents. So the Homeland Security Department and ICE and all that is pretty much needs to go. Like, there's no reason for Homeland Security to be there. It was something that was put in place by Bush after 9/11 and didn't do anything to make anyone safer ever. It's a waste. That's why Trump chose it, because he was like, hey, that's the one department that I have full say over, that no one can call me out on for making decisions. And so it's his personal army in a sense. And by doing mass-scale deportations and raids, the agents are being made to be used to tearing people away from their families. And I actually read a story where ICE came up to someone and asked him if he was a US citizen. He was in his car and he had the doors locked, and he asked ICE for a warrant, and they refused to show him a warrant. And legally, they are not allowed to do anything to you without a warrant. But what they did do was they broke his window and dragged him out of the car. And he had a child seat right next to where they broke, but there was no child in it, fortunately. And they literally just dragged him out. And then someone who was looking was like, hey, do you have a warrant for that? And they threatened to shoot that person. And so that is it. Like, forget your laws. Like, laws say, ICE needs a warrant or whatever. Like, the ICE officers, they are, most of them, basically stormtroopers, Gestapo, whatever you want to think of them. They are full fash. People who are still ICE agents now are fully fascist. There's like not a single bone in their body that isn't made of fascism. Every cell in their body is running on fascism if they're still an ICE agent now. And when they get to you, if they've made up their minds that they don't think you belong in the country, they are going to do whatever they can to try and lock you up so you get deported, even if you're a US citizen. And people who are US citizens have been deported before. So they use the citizenship as their moral defense, and then when it comes to actually being on the streets, doing raids, suddenly it's not about citizenship, it's about their racism. Suddenly it's not about citizenship anymore. Sorry, it's like sunset time here, and at sunset the Hottie-Dars like to migrate past my place and yell a lot. So yeah. Anyway, when it comes to ice raids on the streets, they don't care about the law. They'll do whatever they think they can get away with, and maybe even more than that. They might want to inflict harm on people so badly that they're willing to take flack and punishment for it. But pretty much always when this kind of thing, yeah, like say they kill people or whatever, they will probably get paid administrative leave, and then either get their job back, or get paid for the rest of their lives, basically by the government or whatever. So for them, it's basically a retirement plan to kill people, because there's no accountability, no punishment. And so I've tried to explain it before, and I guess I'm going to make one more go at it, which is to say that if you wait and do nothing, then you're going to be the next person in their car, and they're not going to care about your citizenship status. And if you're a leftist and you let this continue, and look at what Trump's saying, he's saying people born in the USA need to go get deported, basically, go back, like they need to voluntarily deport themselves. Soon it will be going to, we should deport them, or we should make them go. And soon it will be, well, it doesn't matter if you're white. If you are white and you defend other races, if you're a white and a leftist, then you're just as bad as a person of color, and you'll be treated the same as them. And so they will come for you if you're a leftist, because what they want is to have a country that is only fascists and only white people. They may allow other races as long as they've got them under control and they are performing services and don't have agency. But they will come for you, potentially lock you up. There are military installations where they're moving migrants, where there is no oversight of Congress at all, and where they can do whatever they want. And if they obfuscate the numbers enough, they can kill hundreds of people and no one will even know. And so you'll be a missing person or whatever, maybe. Who knows? But my point is that if you do nothing, and this stuff continues, eventually they will come for you, and it's not going to be fun. I'm sorry, but it's going to be the worst day of your life until the next day. Until the next day. But so Will had the right idea, I think, and that is that if you really want to save your own self, you got to get rid of ICE, and going to ICE facilities and making them shut down. Get numbers together if you can, but that kind of action, shutting ICE down by whatever means necessary, no matter how dangerous it is, even if it costs you your life is already forfeit, because fascists are in power and you're a leftist. I'm sorry, but you're going to be hiding. At best case scenario, you'll be on the run. But your life is pretty much forfeit. So if you can stop ICE, then you might actually have a future. And so I would encourage everyone in the USA, do whatever it takes to stop ICE, to stop the deportations, to stop the raids, to stop the kids in cages, and to stop this entire fascism ascendancy. Do what you need to do. Impeach Trump, impeach Pence if you need to, whatever it takes. The question shouldn't be, oh, we can't do X, Y, Z. The times are desperate now. Whatever it is that is within your reach, grasp at those straws, do whatever you can. If you need to impeach 1,000 people, impeach 1,000 people. It doesn't matter how big the task ahead is. Doing nothing is a guaranteed loss. Doing nothing is guaranteed concentration camps. Now, guaranteed as long as my predictive model is right, of course. It might not be, but I am saying this because I feel like it is. And I'm saying this because a lot of other people have similar models and are saying similar things, and we need this to be understood by people, that you're not safe while ICE exists. You're not safe in the USA, and once the USA has gotten rid of all the troublesome people of color who haven't been enslaved yet, and once they've then turned on queer people, got rid of them, and then once they've turned on leftists and got rid of them, they'll have this whole big country, no more minorities to torture and abuse and kill, and they'll need to start expanding their reach. They have the biggest military in the world, and they are going to start conquering other nations, and there are a lot of fascist nations around that will ally with them. Canada's big on fascism, Brazil's big on fascism, Saudi Arabia's big on fascism, Russia's big on fascism, China is pretty fascist a lot of the times. So I mean, Russia and China might not want to be on that side of the fascist war. Let's remember, like, the World War II was a battle between different strains of fascism. Like, the USA and Britain and that were freaking fascist as well. Just look at what Winston Churchill did, and just look at what the UK has done to people, and what the US does to people. Like, there was a war between two, an expansionary fascist state and a non-expansionary alliance, or fascist empire, whatever. So, but who knows if that'll happen again, if there will be two different fascist empires, alliance wars, or if it'll just be all the fascists getting together. But anyway, the point is they'll come for everyone else in the world, including me, which is why I'm saying all this, because it does affect me personally, because if it's not stopped, it leads straight to me joining y'all. And that will be how I die. And then who knows what the future will be, because fascists will have the whole world. The climate will obviously probably take them all out, but if you can stop ice, you might save the world, who knows. And yes, you do need to get someone like Bernie in power to save the world too, but you don't save the world without ice. Ice equals apocalypse. Ice equals the military power and the violent enforcement wing of climate change denial. Ice will be used to lock up protesters for climate change, definitely, if Trump wins. Yeah. Anyway, it's getting really dark, and I don't know, you can probably hardly see me, so I'm gonna stop talking now. But thanks for watching. Bye.